If you're a hardcore sports fanatic, you're in the right place. Nathan Weller is ready to dish out the hard-hitting sports talk that you love. We're talking everything from NFL and AFL to the NBA, NHL, and even cricket. This is the Real Deal Sports Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Real Deal Sports Podcast. As you all know, I am your host, Nathan. I just want to thank everyone for all their positive feedback again. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying the podcast so far. Today's episode of the Real Deal Sports Podcast is jam-packed. Very busy episode today, covering news from the NFL, NBA, UFC. Also, I'll be covering a bit of cricket, as well as giving my predictions for the upcoming WWE pay-per-view Hell in a Cell. So let's get started. Starting with a bit of NFL news. Now, the New York Giants released their kicker, Josh Brown, recently. The Giants have released Brown after the Washington state authorities released letters and journal entries where the veteran kicker admitted to abusing his wife. Brown had served a one-game suspension at the beginning of the year after being arrested in May 2015 following an incident with his estranged wife. In letters, Brown wrote, "I have physically, verbally, and emotionally abused my wife Molly. I've been a horrible father and a horrible stepfather." Now, the NFL was widely criticized for their handling of the situation after promising to be harsher on domestic violence following the Ray Rice incident in 2014. If, in my opinion, any man that abuses a woman, either physically, mentally, verbally, emotionally, is nothing more than a straight coward. I don't think he should be given another chance. Because if you look at Ray Rice, he's tried to do everything right following his incident, and he hasn't been given another game since, so Josh Brown, you're nothing more than a weak prick in my opinion. Sticking with the NFL, Aldon Smith has applied for reinstatement to the NFL. The pass rusher's one-year suspension for violating the NFL's policy and program for substance of abuse expires on November 17th. However, the Raiders general manager, Reggie McKenzie, has stated that Smith has applied for reinstatement. McKenzie also admitted that Smith is doing well and is planning to meet with the NFL Commissioner, Roger Goodell. Smith's once promising career was sidelined by off-field issues when the 27-year-old was arrested 3 times for a DUI and entered into a treatment center during July. So if it all goes well for Smith, it looks like he's going to continue his career with the Oakland Raiders, and good luck to him. I wish him the best. One more piece of NFL news. It looks like the Denver Broncos running back C.J. Anderson is going to be out for the rest of the season. Now, initial suspicions thought it was just a bit of bone bruising towards the knee, but after a second opinion, it looks like he's going to have to undergo surgery, and looks like he won't be able to line up with the Denver Broncos for the rest of the season. He's a big player in their offense, so that's going to be sort of a big damage to the Denver Broncos. Hopefully they can cover him, but no CJ for the Broncos for the rest of the year. Moving on to some NBA news now, and the takeaways from the NBA season openers. Is Russell Westbrook having the last laugh? Why the Golden State Warriors fell to the San Antonio Spurs, Westbrook was brilliant during the Thunder's opening game with 32 points, 12 rebounds and 9 assists, so it looks like Westbrook could be on his way to an MVP season, which I think he should win. The Lakers could be watchable again this season. Despite a horrible first defensive half from them and the Rockets, where the Rockets led the Lakers 71-63, the Lakers' young brigade led by Randall, Russell, Clarkson, who'd had 25 points off the bench, they were able to gain their first victory in the season opener, defeating the Rockets 120-114. So the Lakers could be on the up and up with life after Kobe. Another thing I took away from the opening games, the big men appear to be back. Big men around the league during the opening games dominated, led by Anthony Davis, who had 50 points, 16 rebounds, 5 assists. Karl Anthony Towns had 21 points and 5 assists. Joel Embiid had 20 points and 7 rebounds during his debut game. And while Boogie Cousins chalked up 24 points for the Sacramento Kings, so big men could be back in the league. I can't even believe I'm about to talk about this next subject. For those people that say the Warriors are in trouble, or Kevin Durant has made the Warriors worse, you people need to relax. It's one game. Yes, they fell to the Spurs and they didn't look great, but it's one game. The Warriors had all sorts of problems against the Spurs, and their transition buckets really hurt. But let's pump the brakes. It's one game. It's definitely not going to be the end for the Golden State Warriors, and they're definitely going to be in the finals. So let's all relax a bit, shall we? I want to talk about the Kings for a bit. The Kings ran the Suns out of their own building, handing the Suns their worst loss for an opening game in their franchise history. The Kings' defense was a lot better, and this could be the start of the Kings becoming relevant in the NBA, so well done. Moving on to some UFC news now, starting with Anthony Pettis here. 3 cars belonging to Anthony Pettis caught fire during an alleged arson attack at his house in Milwaukee last week. Now, Pettis has no idea who could be responsible for this incident or why someone would damage his property this way. Now, if this is true and it is an arson attack, that's pretty disgusting that someone would just go out, light up 3 cars in someone's driveway. Why? I don't know. What do you gain out of it? Who knows? It's just pretty disgusting that someone could treat someone else's property that they've worked hard for that way. Poor form, whoever did that. I'm going to talk about Frank Mir for a little bit. Now, the last time Mir was in an octagon was last March. It was a quite forgettable night for him as he was knocked out in the first round by Mark Hunt. Now, Mir is 37 and at the stage of his career where he's only going to be matched up against younger and more dangerous fighters than himself. During an interview, Mir admitted that he's still under contract with UFC, but he's trying to get out of that contract, claiming that they aren't going to utilize him as a fighter and he's not getting any younger. Mir has expressed interest in fighting overseas in Russia and Japan, are his main countries he wants to go fight in. He's also expressed interest in trying different fighting styles. Now, whether the UFC are just going to say, alright, off you go, we'll release you from your contract, I don't know. They have him under contract, so it's pretty much up to them what they can do unless he gets legal representative. He's got a point. He is 37. If you look at, you don't really see him beating anyone these days. He got knocked out in the first round during his last fight by Mark Hunt, who's no spring chicken himself. But if he wants to try something else, I say let him go. Let him go. He's done all he can for your sport and your company. Just let him go try what he wants to do with his life. Let him go try fighting Japan and Russia. Let him try fighting different fighting styles. Let him go. He's done all he can for the UFC, and I think they should respect that. Sticking with the UFC and addressing the rumours surrounding the Michael Bisping and GSP fight. Now, Bisping has been angling for this fight against GSP since the summer. Bisping has poked and provoked the former welterweight kingpin on numerous occasions, even calling him a bitch for retiring from UFC. GSP has announced that he'd like to return to UFC action in August, ramping up the speculations for a fight against Bisping. However, President Dana White has poured cold water on the fight, saying Bisping wants the fight, but it's not going to happen. But hey, we can all hope for it to happen, can't we? Bit of cricket news now. The Australian Test squad for the series against South Africa was released. Now let's have a look who we've got here. We've got David Warner, Shaun Marsh, Usman Khawaja, Steve Smith, Mitchell Marsh, Peter Neville, Mitchell Starc, Josh Hazlewood, Nathan Lyon, Adam Voges, Peter Siddle, and a newcomer, Josh Meaney. Now, how will this squad go? I can't tell you honestly. I think, now people can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the first test is in the WACA on November 3rd, and I guess we'll have to see then. But I can't really predict how they're going to go, but hey, let's hope they do well. Before I jump into my Hell in the Cell predictions, I just want to sneak in a bit of news about the AFL. Now, it was reported this week that Gary Ablett went to the Gold Coast Suns and requested a trade back to Geelong. Now, the Suns obviously said no, but where do they go from here? It's similar to the Ryan Griffin situation. Not exactly similar, so don't come saying, oh, it's not similar. But he's the captain of their club, and he wanted to leave. But what do they do for here? Obviously, he can't remain their captain. I think it should go to their forward, Tom Lynch, but do they keep him as captain and try and convince that this is the place where he should finish his career? Or do they say, next period we'll try and ship him off? I don't know what they do here. But it's up to them, and they obviously haven't done well with their culture over the years, but it's mind-boggling to think that he requested a trade back to Geelong. And also, they've also announced that they were looking at a Twilight Grand Final. Now, I know people aren't going to agree with me here, but I wouldn't mind it. If you look at the success that the NFL have had with the Super Bowl, I think we should try it here in the AFL. It could be different, make it a whole day event, not just rush it and then get into the game and then wrap it up. Make it draw out a bit, draw it out. Now, traditionalists are going to say, oh, keep it at the 2:30 spot, it's perfect, we can go out after, blah, blah, blah. I don't agree. Try it. If it doesn't work, you can always go back. It doesn't have to stick there, but I'm open for it. Try something new. Let's jump into my Hell in the Cell predictions. The second Raw exclusive pay-per-view for this year. The first match is Gallows and Anderson versus Enzo and Big Cass. Now, let's be honest. The booking for both of these teams have made them both look like trash. However, Gallows and Anderson have not won a pay-per-view match via pinfall or submission since May. Enzo and Cass are that popular, a loss won't hurt them here as much, but it makes no sense for Gallows and Anderson to suffer another loss here and eat another loss. You could say it would hurt their stock in WWE and people wouldn't take it as seriously as they should be, so I predict that Gallows and Anderson will be winning the match. Moving on to Bayley versus Dana Brooke. Now, how does someone go from being an NXT megastar, one of the biggest stars they have, popular, everyone loves her, champion, to a glorified jobber on Raw? Well, just ask Bayley, because that's exactly what's happened to her. They've made her look like trash, crap, they've given her nothing really to work with. The arm wrestling segment on Raw was just atrocious. The crowd was chanting, "This is boring, we want a match." So that obviously says all that needs to be said there. This feud has been pretty much pointless, and it isn't going anywhere. I'm saying Bayley must win this match to keep her stock and remain relevant in the company. But yeah, Bayley has to win. There's no other option, so I don't see why they'd give the win to Dana Brooke here, so I predict Bayley will be winning this match. On to the Cruiserweight Championship match. TJ Perkins defending against Brian Kendrick. Now, they've tried to revamp the Cruiserweight division off the success they have with the WWE Cruiserweight Classic. But it hasn't really gained much traction on Raw, and I can see why. The fans aren't interested in the characters or the storylines. They change the ropes to purple every match, which makes them look stupid. They add purple lighting, which makes them look stupid. They don't really include them into the main storylines, which makes them look like lesser talent. But however, this match could go either way, really. TJ Perkins is a safe pick if you want to go with that, because he hasn't had the title that long. He hasn't had a long title reign, and he's only defended the championship once. However, Brian Kendrick has been pushing the storyline that this is his last chance to return to his former glory and amend his past failures, and he can't afford to lose this match. I'm predicting Brian Kendrick wins the match and becomes the new Cruiserweight champion here. On to the Raw Tag Team Championship match now. We have New Day defending against Cesaro and Sheamus. It's quite obvious to everyone that the New Day is going to break the Demolition's championship reign here. And even if they won't, I don't really think Cesaro and Sheamus are the ones that are going to take the championships off them. There hasn't been really much tension between these two teams. I don't see the New Day dropping the titles here. Having said that, I do think the New Day are starting to get a bit bland. I don't know what they can do to reinvent their act. Maybe turn heel again. Add a fourth member, but they've got to change something up. They're getting a bit bland, even though the crowd seems to be digging it. In my opinion, they're becoming a bit bland. But I predict New Day to retain their tag team championships here. On to the United States Championship match. Roman Reigns defends against Rusev inside Hell in a Cell. Hopefully this feud ends, because it's getting drawn out way too long. And it doesn't seem to be about the United States Championship anymore. It's more about defending each other's families, disrespecting each other's families, crushing weddings. And it just seems to be like the United States Championships become an afterthought, which is a shame because it was once a prestigious title. WWE has done a deplorable job in convincing the fans that Rusev can actually beat Roman, seeing as how Rusev has never pinned or made Roman submit. So how are we meant to expect a different result here? Simple answer, we're not. As much as I want to say Rusev is going to win the United States Championship, I don't see it. I don't see how he's going to get it done. I predict that Roman Reigns will remain United States Champion. And as a side note, anyone who knows me or is close to me knows I can't stand Roman Reigns. I think he's trash. His wrestling is horrible. He's trash on the microphone. He's overhyped, overutilized. And I think his moveset is boring. Now, apparently, he's meant to be getting a new finisher apart from the Superman Punch and Spear. I would like to see that. I don't know what it's going to be, but hopefully he gets something. He needs to improve because, honestly, he's just straight garbage. Now, some people out there might think that's a bit harsh. That's fine. You have your opinion, I have mine. But let's be honest, he's straight garbage. WWE pipe in, fans cheering to cover their boos, which I think is ridiculous. They're lying to their fans. When they say they listen, they obviously don't because we don't want him there. But at least this keeps him out of the world title picture, which is sort of making the fans happy. But come on, man, change something up. Turn him heel. Make him corporate, something. He's got to do something. He's bland. He's cheesy. But again, these are just my opinions. Feel free to let me know yours. If you're a fan of Roman, that's great. If you're like me and you're not, that's fine too. Let me know what you think out there, people. Are you a fan of Roman Reigns? On to the Women's Championship match now, where Sasha Banks defends her title against Charlotte inside Hell in a Cell. This is the first women's match that's ever taken place inside of Hell in a Cell, and it may well be the main event of this pay-per-view. This is a pretty big step in women's wrestling. If 10 years ago someone said women are going to be in Hell in a Cell, I would have laughed in your face. All they were good for were bra and panties, lingerie, stripper on the pole matches, all that stuff. But now they're using their talent instead of their looks, which is great to see. Now, I think Charlotte is undefeated at pay-per-view matches, or undefeated at pay-per-view matches involving a championship match or something like that, which is pretty amazing since she's been in about 13-14 pay-per-view matches. Having said that, Sasha's just won the championship back. It's in her hometown Boston. I think it's too early for her to lose the title again, but you never know, they could pull a rabbit out of a hat and swerve us once again. But I think Sasha will remain the women's champion. Now, speaking of women's wrestling, they've been promoting this women's revolution. But on the Raw side, it seems like Sasha and Charlotte are the only ones getting some major TV time and the major pushes. What about your other Raw women's talent you have there? You have Nia Jax, she's a big woman. She could be a dominant force that could be used. Paige, former two-time champion, she could be pushed into that title championship picture when she comes back. Summer Rae, you're not the best. Alicia Fox, again, she's a former Divas champion. She's not the best. Dana Brooke is improving very slowly, but still very green. She could go back to NXT. Bayley, as I said, she was an NXT megastar, now a glorified jobber. And you've got Emma who can return with this Emma Lima gimmick, whatever the hell that is. But you've got, what have you got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 other women you could be using in your women's championship picture, but yet you only use Sasha and Bayley. Sasha and Charlotte, sorry. So much for this women's revolution, huh? Oh, well, I guess, but on to the Universal Championship match now, which will also be defended in Hell in a Cell, with Kevin Owens defending against Seth Rollins. Now, people have described this feud as underwhelming and lackluster. However, I disagree. I've enjoyed this rivalry, and I'm a fan of both their work. Seth Rollins is an amazing athlete in the ring, and he was a great heel. Hasn't really found his way as a face, but he's getting there. He still throws in a cheesy line in there, but he'll get there. He'll make it work. Kevin Owens is just an amazing heel on the mic, in the ring. He's just amazing. I love his work. Inside Hell in a Cell, I would really like these two to have full range and just put on an epic encounter. Let the shackles loose, as they say. However, I am surprised that they didn't interject Chris Jericho into this match in some form, either as the third participant making it a triple threat, or even as a special guest referee, which is surprising, considering how they're playing up the Jericho-Owens feud coming in the future. But there is one surprise that people might not have thought of. What are the odds that Triple H shows up again to help Kevin Owens and screw Seth Rollins? Just something to think about, something to keep in the back of your mind. But I am predicting that Kevin Owens retains the Universal Championship here. but I am hoping for a barn burner of a match, and I hope it's going to be a great one. And there we have it. That's all for today's episode of the Real Deal Sports Podcast. Hope you enjoyed the coverage of the NFL, UFC, cricket, snuck in a bit of AFL, and the Hell in a Cell predictions. Let me know if you agree or disagree with anything I said. You can either message me on my Facebook page or the Real Deal Facebook page. Going forward, as this podcast gains momentum, I will be adding a part where you can add questions, asking me questions for me to answer to the best of my ability. But that's just something that you guys can look forward to. As I said, going forward, I will be doing a mock draft for the AFL coming up soon, which is in I think about a month, 3 weeks, something like that. So that's something to come forward to. But that's all for today's podcast, and thank you very much. Enjoy listening.